really kind of getting at the heart of it and why Viasat is deeply in the drone and AAM market. It's this idea of beyond visual line of sight and those strong command and control links based on your rich history. I want to talk a little bit more about that history. And I think we have a slide that kind of goes through some of the background of the company, and so I want to pop that up here. Tell us a little bit about, you mentioned standards development and your work with regulators. That's kind of the second bullet here on this slide. Lisa, can you elaborate a little bit about that?
Sure. A safety communications provider for critical safety services for aviation and maritime, we have been engaging with ICAO, the International Civil Aviation Organization, the International Maritime Organizations for global safety standards and rules for decades. Additionally, in the aviation community, we've been participating in standards development organizations like RTCA, like EuroCAI, like AEC, because we need to be able, those bodies need to be able to take advantage of our expertise and our familiarity with our technologies and where we're taking them so that they can benefit from being aware of the state of the art as those technologies change. And at the same time, we need to understand what their operational needs are and what their requirements are, what issues they're facing, and what new types of services and capabilities they desire to be able to provide a really safe and efficient service. So we engage, we chair some of the teams within those groups. It's just been a constant communication for the last 30 years. And of course, now we have groups within all of those organizations that are specifically oriented toward developing the standards and regulatory infrastructure for UAS and AAM.
Yeah, I mean, this is really being built from well, I'd say from the ground up, but in your case, from the space down and everything in between. And Lisa, as I think about it, there's really nothing more important right now in this point in time than industry engagement, like folks like you and Viasat going to these bodies when we're seeing our federal government pulling back from participating in some of these. For those that don't know, and by the way, guys, we are live. So, and Lisa's amazing with incredible background experience. So, if you got any questions, just go ahead and drop them in the chat, and we'll get to those. But Phil Kenyon, I'm sure you know Phil, retired Rear Admiral from NOAA. He wrote an amazing op-ed for Autonomy Global about his concerns with that kind of American or U.S. pullback from these standards bodies and how critical it is for that engagement. You mentioned UAS and communications link. Is that for ASTM? Is that like working group 38? Is that the one that's working on that, or is that something different, Lisa?
So I don't specifically engage with ASTM, so I'd have to
Gotcha.
confirm
You're
with
looking
my
right.
colleagues. Now, we are supporting RTCA, SC228, SC222, and the development of DO 377, which are the MASS, the Minimum Aviation System Performance Standards for UAS in the US. So we're participating in that, and we're also participating with the ICAO Remotely Piloted Aircraft Systems Panel. I sit on the C2 work group. There's also a task force for required link performance, and that would be for the C2 link. And one of my colleagues is also participating with the Advanced Air Mobility Study Group. And then we're also on non-RPAS expert groups that will also engage with the RPAS panel. And we're heavily involved in developing. There's a whole slew of standards being developed for this industry, for the airframes, for the power systems to address detect and avoid technologies, loss link procedures. We tend to focus on the areas that involve particularly the things that would be supported and enabled by our satellite communication links.